All right. Today, B'ezrat Hashem, I'm going to give a shiur on a small idea that I thought about. Something that's an important thing, something that's spoken a lot about in our world. And Rav Nachman himself touches on it in two places, in Likutei Moharan, in Chilek Aleph. And the main place that he speaks about it is in Torah Reish Ayin Beis in Chilek Aleph. I'll read to you what Rav Nachman says, and then we'll expound a little bit on it, the psychology of how to incorporate it into ourselves and what the issue is, why people don't. And it's difficult for them to incorporate such a great idea. Rav Nachman says like this, there's a pasuk in Tehillim, in Perek Tzadikei, Kapitel Tzadikei, in Tehillim, David HaMelech says, well, it's not David HaMelech actually, David HaMelech is only till Ayin Dalet, I think, right? So either Moshe Rabbeinu, there was 10 people that said Tehillim. It's called Tehillim is after David HaMelech because he was the main. He had the most prokim after him. If you look in Rashi and the other Rishonim, in the beginning of Tehillim, you'll see that Tehillim actually there was 10 authors of Tehillim. One of them was Moshe Rabbeinu, Adam Rishon, David HaMelech. Yeah, there's a famous thing that people think that David HaMelech is all the Tehillim, 150. It's not. If you look in the Tehillim, you'll see at the end of the last one in 70, I think it's 4, Ayin Daled. It says over here, Kol Tfilot David ben Ishai. Here is where the end of David HaMelech's tefillot are. So what about from 74 to 150? So the answer is it's between 9 other people. If you look in Rashi and the Radak over there and the Ralbag, you'll see all the Rishonim talk about who, and they bring Rayis, and they speak about which ones and why. But Rav Nachman brings a pasuk, Ayoim B'Kol Yisishmo. Now, first of all, this pasuk is a very famous pasuk because the Gemara always speaks about this pasuk. Why? One time the Gemara says that one of the Tanoim, Rabbi Shua ben Levi, met Eliyahu Hanavi, and he asked Eliyahu Hanavi, when's Mashiach going to come? So Eliyahu Hanavi said to him, go and ask him yourself. So he said, where is he? He said, he's at the gates. He's in the marketplace. Well, one Gemara says he's in the gate of Rome. See, that's really, but some say he's in the marketplace. But it really doesn't mean that he's sitting in front of Rome. It's a deep aspect of Kabbalah, why Rome, especially because what does Rome signify? But the point is, he met Mashiach. And he says, Mashiach, when are you coming? So Mashiach turns to him, he says, today. He says, today? He's sitting, goes home, and he's the last moments, because we know when Mashiach comes, there's no more. He can't, everybody's going to serve God, so there's not going to really be any more, schar, any more reward, because, the reward is now that we don't see God, and we have to believe and all that. He starts learning and davening. Shkia comes, nighttime comes, no shofar, no nothing, no donkey running through the streets. Mashiach doesn't come. What's going on? What's up? He gets all nervous. Maybe it was, maybe he did come. I didn't hear. Okay, fine. He goes to Mashiach. He goes back to Mashiach. He found out his hiding place. He goes back to, where he's hiding out. He says, you lied to me. What do you mean? He said, you said you're coming today. He said, of course. He said, Hayoim B'Kol Yisishmo. That means that I was coming today. I meant to, of course I'm coming today. But what? It's all in your hands. In Am Yisrael. What does that mean? If you listen to Hashem, one day, if Am Yisrael listens to Hashem right away, the Geula comes. I'm ready to come today. I'm coming today. From my standpoint, from my point of view, I'm coming today. So that's what it means. Hayoim im b'kol yisishmo. So that's one limud of Hayoim b'kol yisishmo is that if we listen to Hashem today, then we'll be zocheh to Geula. Rav Nachman learned something else. And this idea that Rav Nachman is saying, first of all, is one of the most famous ideas that all psychologists and everybody speak about, and like we know, all psychology, like I always say, is found in Chassidus, and all Chassidus talks about this. So Rav Nachman starts like this: Hayoim b'kol yisishmo. Hayoim today im b'kol yisishmo. If you listen to his voice, whose voice? Hashem's. Zekal godol b'avedas Hashem. This is a tremendous thing in serving Hashem. Shelo yosem leneged enov ki im oiseh hayoim. That a person should not look in front of him only what he has that day. Hein be'esek parnaso. What he has money-wise, people have to work, it's very difficult, and all other things. What does he have to charge? You shouldn't think about tomorrow. Think about what you have today. Now, and also in serving Hashem, person says, what's the point of learning Shas? To learn the whole Shas. Shas is about 3,000 pages or something. Let me ask you a question. Guy thinks 3,000 pages, forget it, I'm not going to be able to do it. But if a guy says, for me, I'm going to learn at least one page today, so that's how you do. You look at each day what you can do and you don't look at tomorrow. Today, I'm going to do one page out of the 3,000. The point is, every person has to understand that he only has the day in front of him. First of all, for many reasons. One of the most simple reasons is like the Rambam says, a person always has to remember every single day that this could be your last. The people unfortunately die every single day, and from many different causes, and it's scary. So the point is that we shouldn't get down about it and think all day I'm going to die today, God forbid. It shouldn't become an anxiety type of thing that people have, but it should be a thing that you remember in the morning when you get up. Listen, let me fulfill this. Let me use this day to the most to fulfill everything I can, all my potential, just today. What happens if a guy says, let's say for a week right now, I'm not going to speak Lashon Hara? Let's, for example, a week not speaking Lashon Hara? Come on, are you kidding? But if let's say the guy says, you know what, an hour I'm not going to speak Lashon Hara. Then after an hour he gets used to an hour and he says, it's nothing. Then 2 hours and you build it up. Everything in Avodas Hashem is you take what you have now and that's what you focus on. Now, why is this a huge thing? Because first of all, this actual thing of Nachman is saying is much deeper than what it sounds like. I'll explain to you why. I one time saw one of the most a big psychologist said he said to people that worry, people have anxieties, and people have many worries in their life. He said it doesn't make sense. What do you mean it doesn't make sense? He says like this, and he's very logical, but that's really what Rav Nachman is telling us. He says you're worrying about the past. Most people either they worry about the past that they did. The past is an imagination. You're worrying about the future. The future is also an imagination. So what do you have really in your hands? The only non-imagination is what you're doing right now. Because everything in the past happened, so it's all in your mind. And everything in the future is just how you're what? Processing what's going to be in your mind, this, and this. But it didn't happen yet. So he said, that's how you really have to get over anxieties about the future and the past, because to understand, you only have what you have now. So I said, it's very nice, smart guy. I mean, that's not the biggest genius idea that came out of, down from heaven, but it's a nice idea. But let me ask you a question. When somebody is sitting there and he's going, for the past 3 years, I'm trying to get close to Hashem. The past 3 years, I'm trying not to think about this thing that makes me crazy all day. This monster that's in my brain and this thing, everybody has their own thing. I'm sitting there, I'm like, the guy isn't good, but he's not being practical because everybody knows the logic. The point of the anxiety is that the logic is thrown out the window. So what exactly is he saying? And what exactly is Rav Nachman saying? Rav Nachman is saying, just focus on now. The point is, that's the whole problem. A person can't focus on now because when anxiety comes in and problems and questions and all that, it's almost impossible to understand what you're doing now. What am I doing? So you focus on the next thing. So the answer is, I realized, no, Rav Nachman is telling us the answer in the question. The words he's saying is the question and the answer, which is meaning it's a level more than this psychologist just said, do that. If any human being was able to do that, we'd all have a great life, right? The point is that it's not that easy, and everybody has to go through you, and everyone. Now, the answer is like this. What's the point? Because the point is the past is an imagination, and the future is an imagination, right? Hayom really means not just today, it means now, the present. That's the point of it. It just means today because that's the speech. But Rav Nachman means what you have right now in your hands, meaning you're davening, focus on your davening, don't focus on anything else. 99% of the world, every moment of their lives, what are they busy with? At the present time, meaning the person is doing a present thing, right? He's presently doing a certain action. The action itself is really an imagination also. There's no tachlis in it. 99% of the world, I'd like to say less, but look at the media, look what's going on. Everybody's either busy killing people, everybody's chasing women, everybody's drugs, money, all the stupidity that after 80 years, over with. Over with. I one time saw a YouTube clip, and it made a huge impression on me, an unbelievable impression. There's a famous atheist in Israel who's a radio host, and he went to visit a ultra Haredi family in Modi'in. The kids have peyote on their ears, and there's, the tzitzis out, the whole, real religious family. He walks in, and he, friendly, everybody's talking. He turns to kids. There must be the older one must have been like 8, 9, the other one 10, or the other one is 8. Not more than 10 years old. And he says to him, why do you want to study Gemara and why do you want to learn and be close to Hashem? The kid says, because of Olam Haba, because of the next world. That's the purpose. So then he says, he asked the kid a question. You don't want to be like the strongest? You don't want to be like the biggest bodybuilder? So the kid turns with the most simplicity in his eyes. I've never seen this in my life. He turns to him and he says, what am I going to gain from that? Where's that going to get me? After I die, it's over. And it's over forever. But this is forever. Serving God is forever. You saw the shock in the guy's eyes, like a little 10-year-old kid is like, he has life in his hands, he knows. But then he added something else, which is even greater. He said, but also because I want to live now. Not just I'm learning Torah because I want to live now. What did the kid mean? He didn't even realize what he meant, but because his father's teaching him, his father knows, hopefully. The answer is, because the kid understands that everything else is an imagination. Because the fact that what it is going to be in the future causes now already to be an imagination. So the fact is, the present time, when you're busy with everything that has to do with the purpose, which is one purpose, to come close to Hashem, it's all an imagination. So what happens right now? You're in a present and imagination. So what happens automatically? You think about the next imagination. So what happens? Anxiety kicks in because you're not really enjoying the imagination now. You think about the next imagination. If you ever seen, I've been to nightclubs, and I'm sure everybody's been. What is everybody's tachas going to a nightclub? It's what? It's to go home and wake up the next day. What does that mean? What do I mean to say? It's always, I want to get drunk, so when I get drunk, I'm not embarrassed, and when I'm not embarrassed, I can go talk to a girl. And then when I talk to a girl, I can wake up in the morning and feel ashamed of myself, and I do it all over and all over again. That's one big imagination. So nothing in the present that this person is doing is for that present moment. It's all about either the future or the past to make himself feel better about the past. So really his present, his future, and the past, it's all one. It's all one imagination. So he's really not living, technically, because he's not living in the future, he's not living in the past, he's not living now. So he's just not living. So what's Rav Nachman telling us now? Rav Nachman is saying, but when it comes to Avodas Hashem, when you're sitting and learning Torah, I'll give you an example. This morning when I got up, woke up very early, and I ended up learning a couple of hours before I started davening. Sometimes I learn a few hours before davening, sometimes I daven right away, it depends, I'm sitting and learning, all of a sudden the time comes and it's 8 o'clock, I gotta daven, like I've been up since who knows when, whatever. I must have davened, I don't know, probably like a half hour, the whole thing. And during davening, I'm sitting there and I'm like nervous, I want to go back to learn Torah, right? On Shabbos, my Shemona Esrei took an hour. Just the Shemona Esrei part took an hour. I'm sitting there, each word, thinking about the Kabbalistic act, what happened yesterday to today. The answer is, because when a person is machshiv, now what does machshiv mean? The person has a thing in the present moment and he realizes and cherishes the moment that he has, he's not in the rush to go anywhere else because there's nothing better than this. So on Shabbos, where I cherished my prayer, I wasn't thinking about, let me go run and go learn Torah, because I know that prayer is just as important, and just this is important, and that's important. So I'm going to spend as much time, and it's like I was in a different world. I finished praying after everybody finished an hour before. But this morning, I didn't cherish my prayer as much, my tefillah. So I looked at the next thing. So in the middle of my prayer, I was thinking about the Torah that I'm going to learn. Because today, for me, Torah was better. So in reality, even the tefillah at that point wasn't so, that doesn't mean we shouldn't daven, but it wasn't as tachlis as it should be. It didn't have the purpose that it should. To get close to Hashem, it was more just, I'm doing it because I know I have to do it. So the difference is, because when a person is doing something that's tachlis now, and he focuses now on what he's doing, he's not thinking about the future or the past, because what he has in his hands is what matters, and that's it. But when you're busy all day with just imaginations, so you're never busy with what you have in your hand, because it's also an imagination, so you just think about the future, the past. So Rav Nachman is saying, that's the chiddush by when a person is learning Torah Avodas Hashem. A person says, I'm going to think about the future, that you're messing up the whole point, because the whole point of serving Hashem is the tachlis. So when the tachlis is the present, that's all you think about. And when you think about that, so each time you're doing that thing, you don't want to leave it. And then the next day, let's say, so now you're davening. And then then if it's Shabbos, then what? You take a nap. Why am I saying that? Even the most remote things, you think they have nothing to do with Judaism or anything. We know everything has to do with godliness, right? We said sleeping one time, we said from the Rizal, sleeping on Shabbos is an important thing. You go to sleep and you find that a tachlis. You never think about the future. Never. You always think about, what am I doing now? When somebody's learning Torah, I'm talking about 15 hours a day, he never thinks about tomorrow. Because what is there to think about tomorrow? There's thinking about what I'm doing now. It's only people that are always chasing the imagination, so they know that right now it's not giving them anything, so they're always looking for the next thing. And then it runs out. So either most of them, unfortunately, in Hollywood, they get married 18 times, and then by the time they're 60, you usually find them dead, or from an overdose, or they hung themselves, or whatever. We don't have to go into that. But the point is, this is what Rav Nachman is saying, to look at what we have now, because that is the tachlis, and there's nothing else to look at. Because everything is an imagination, the future, because even a future in Torah, that's I'm not learning now, and tomorrow I'm going to be learning. But right now I have tachlis in my hands to serve Hashem what I'm doing now. But a person who's not serving the Rebbeinu Shalom, and even somebody who's working, we know working also is serving Hakadosh Baruch Hu. You're making a parnasa to serve to help your family. I mean to say with somebody his life is not based on Hashem. So then you become. So what is the psychologist helping you? What is he saying? Don't think about the present. Very good. The logic is beautiful. But that's the whole point. The anxiety takes over the logic. But here you won't have the problem because here you're dealing with the present issue and you don't think about the past or the future, so you don't have anxiety because you think about what you're doing now. And what you're doing now is tachlis. I'm going to end off this with something that's amazing. I was sitting in my uncle's house here in Yerushalayim, and he told me that somebody, either his brother-in-law, something, went to India and he started understanding that in India they're very busy with living in the moment. And what does that mean, living in the moment? Living in the moment is to enjoy each second of life. I said, that's not Judaism. That's not Yiddishkeit. Judaism doesn't say to enjoy every moment. We try, of course, happiness is a very big thing. Judaism is something else. It's to use out each moment to what you have to do. Because if it's about just being happy, so then I'll try to do things that make me happy, you know. Sometimes when you learn Torah, you're not happy because it's difficult. But in the inside, you know you're still doing what you need to do. And this is what Hashem wants from you. So you always feel complete that you're using out every second that you can. That's what Judaism is. Yiddishkeit isn't that you sit there every single second and try to be happy. Because if that's what's going to happen, you sit and think about all day happiness, you're not going to be happy. Yiddishkeit, what gives you happiness is being tied down to something. What's that? Tied down? There was one time a person that said, I don't like mentioning him because it could be that he wasn't the most religious person, but he did say something that's incredible. He said the most beautiful and happy thing that a Jew can do is feel that he's a slave. When you feel like a slave, you feel you're accomplishing something for your master, for Hashem. What does that mean? That means we want to be avodim to Hashem because He's the greatest and we want to get close to Him and we know that's the way to get close. So the point is, from this shiur, we see that a person, if he's doing tachlis, so then he's nothing to worry about because he's not thinking about the future or the past, he's thinking about what he has on the right hand in the moment because he knows he's using that second to what he has to do. But a person who's not, so he's not using a second, so his mind keeps on running. So then when I leave the club, I'm going to take a limo, because when I get a limo, maybe I'll pick up some girls on the way. And when I pick up girls, then you know what, and then I'm going to have this party and that party, and then he just goes over and over, and then he wakes up 50 years old, and some of them don't ever leave this life, and they live in an imaginary world their whole lives. And that's pretty much, as you would say, Hollywood. Now you have more normal people that know, without even, people have normal lives because they understand that they're fulfilling something on that purpose in that moment. They don't think about tomorrow. That's what Hashem doesn't want us to think about tomorrow. Because then if you do, then you're not going to be able to do what Hashem wants of you today. We know that Hashem creates the world new every day and every day has its job. So today, Yankel, Moshe, Shmerel, every single person that's in this room, that's not your names, but either way, all you guys, you have to understand, what does Hashem want from me today? Tomorrow. When I get up tomorrow, I'll understand. And not even today. That's what I'm saying. Nachman doesn't mean today, just look at the now, in the present, because today also is in the future, next hour. My wife says, so what are we going to do in an hour? I said, and then she already gives me the answer before, because she knows my answer. I don't know. I tell her, I don't know what I'm doing in a minute from now. Samus, it's true. It's true. The logic is very difficult to deal with because of pressure. That's because when you're not doing the tachas, you're not doing what you have to do, that's when it kicks in. That's why people say fill your time, but they don't realize not fill your time with garbage, and it just makes it worse. I just said, because then it's one imagination to the next. Fill your time with something that's tachlis, that has purpose in it, and each person knows what it doesn't mean sitting and learning all day. People have to work, and people have to help kids, and people have to do this, and you have to take care of your wife, and you have to take care of yourself. Everybody has their thing, but ultimately it's for one purpose. It's all to get closer to Hashem. Each person has to feel his way, and that's really what Ayam Mekales Yishmael is. And Bezat Hashem, through this way, we should be able to deal with all our heartaches and all our anxieties and all our Yetzer Haras, because when we're doing tachlis, nobody can tell us anything. Like when you're in the middle of a Shemona Esrei and you feel close to Hashem, you feel tachlis, a guy can blow a horn in your ear and you just continue davening. You couldn't care less. But when you're not feeling tachlis, a guy who sneezes, you get crazy from. In the shul, the guy's like, why does this guy keep on sneezing? You think if you were in the middle of the tachlis, you would even hear the guy sneezing? No. But the point is, that's the problem. So that's why also, what's an anxiety? It's a thing that bothers you. But if you're in the middle of what you have to do, nothing bothers you. Who cares? Okay, fine, I'm not saying that you should let a guy scream in the air, just, But, so that from there, Bezat Hashem, through this way, we should really use each moment, and not to be happy each moment. Of course, it's important. But to use each moment for the tachlis, the purpose that Hashem gave us this moment, and each one of us has to understand that each time where he is, what does Hashem want from me? And Bezat Hashem, through this, we should be zoichet to really come closer to Rebbeinu Shalom, and through that, be zoichet to Regula Shalom Meher Yameinu Amen.